our conversation today will be an effort to discussing and understanding the important topic of Black history in Canada and how we immigrants can be a part of to reinvigorate this and get it moving in the right direction. Just going back to history, February is celebrated as Black History Month in the United States and Canada. It is celebrated in Europe. It's celebrated in October. So it's a moment, or rather a month, to recognize, remember, respect the contributions of Black community that has helped shape Canada what it is today. Though the United States started this tradition in early 70s, Black History Month actually became one in Canada in 1995, which is rather late, I would think. This became also largely because of contribution of one senator, Jean Augustine. She single-handedly led this motion and which led to designation of February as the Black History Month. Why is this month important? The month-long celebration allows us to look back at our history, the struggle and pain, and look at the strength and accomplishments of the Black ancestors. This recognition of the past paves the path for a more just and racially equal society. This month also offers us an opportunity to be aware of the history and how the rights that we enjoy today were not always there, and it took years of work, blood, and sweat to get here. As new immigrants to this country, we have to make concerted efforts to learn about the history of the country that is Canada. We have adopted to be our country, the people that lived in this land before us, how their contributions shape the society that is open to newcomers like us and create a diverse society here. The Immigrant Life is part of that effort. The Immigrant Life recognizes that, honors that past, and wants to move ahead in the right direction beyond the rhetorics and in action. In today's talk, we will engage in listening, learning, and expanding our horizon to help build a truly representative society and how we can be part of that movement. We have two speakers with us today. Ehi Mabo-Ade, who's a transformational coach, a mindset surgeon. She helps entrepreneurs and businesses expand by working on their self-image, relationship with money, and their systems. Thank you, Ehi, for being here.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Dapo Bankole, who is the founder of the Immigrant Life, where he is building a community for first-generation Canadians. He's also the man behind the Immigrant Life podcast. Both of you join us from Calgary, and I'm here in Ontario. Thank you for being here. So let's just begin today's discussion with looking back at just what does it mean to you? What does Black History Month mean to you? We're all immigrants, and as a fairly new immigrant and with a different heritage, I'm always learning more about Black History Month, which is usually gets overshadowed by the darker side of the history that is slavery. What does it mean to you personally? Maybe we'll start with you, Ehi.
Thank you so much, Meena, for having me. This is an amazing conversation. I think this is a necessary conversation to have, especially in the Black History Month. For me, Black history is a time to look back on the victories, on how far we have come as a people, not just Black people, but how far we have come, in our community, in our world. Because, when you think about the celebration of Black history, it's not just a win for Black people. It's not just a win for people of African backgrounds or African American backgrounds or African Canadian backgrounds. I think it's a win for people all around the world because, I do remember who said this, but the quote goes something like this, we're not all free until, we're not free at all until we are all free, something like that. So,
right.
So I think this is a win for all of us. It's a time for us to remember how much that we have contributed individually, collectively. Because a lot of times you look at people, you look at things around the world, you look at discoveries and inventions, and we're often the people who are overlooked. Most people don't know most of the discoveries that have come from the Black population. So I think Black history is a time to celebrate. It's a time to reflect on how far we've come. It's a time to really make new resolutions, make new decisions on what we want our contributions individually and collectively to be moving forward.
So Dapo, what does this mean to you?
Well, essentially, I definitely agree with Hey 100%. I think we're aligned. We're leaning towards the same thing. It's a time that I believe that, we need to acknowledge ourselves. It's a time for us to pat ourselves on the back. It's a time for us to acknowledge ourselves, to say that yes, we are around. Like he said, a lot of things. I mean, I grew up. I won't speak for everybody, but I grew up knowing a lot more about other races and what they achieved, and for girls, I know they grew up with even baby dolls. So we grew up with like baby dolls, and they're all white in color. Like a lot of things, uh a lot of things that happen is so much concentrated on the other races. And without knowing this, what really happens is we tend to not realize that we are undermining ourselves, and our esteem gets tied to that. That when you think of the human race, you don't even sometimes think about the blacks. You just think it's just these other people. That's what you see in your mind. Without It's an unconscious thing. So I think it's a laudable move. It's a laudable idea to have at least 1 month to say, hey, let's even celebrate this particular race. Let's celebrate people of this descent. And in fact, if you look at it, the fact that we need to have set aside a particular day to acknowledge a particular race, it should tell us something. Why is that not happening for the other races? Thank you.
Doing my research, I found that what percentage of the world's population is white, and turns out it's about 27% of the world population is white. And to think about how dominated the entire world is with that history, with that everybody knows, with that knowledge, is something telling. So let's just go back a little bit on your own life, and what were your growing up years like when it comes to understanding your heritage? Like Dapo touched on that a little bit. Hey, how was it? Was it all totally clouded by white, representation, perception?
Absolutely, absolutely, and Mina, as we speak, it still is in many parts of the world, especially in the country that I come from. I'm from Nigeria, and many parts of Africa. We see the whole. We can take this in so many directions. I don't even know if I want to open this can of worms, but
Yeah.
we see the mentality of white supremacy all around the world, from culture to back up, we talked about black Barbies, to even the way that we perceive ourselves. The other day, I heard about, and I'm not sure, I can't really say that this is true or not, or if it's been passed, but there's a bill that's been passed to allow and to permit for bleaching creams to be legal and okay in some country in Africa. The only reason that women think to be a lighter complexion person, or to be a fairer complexion, not just women, but men and women alike, to be a fairer complexion is better than being a darker complexion person, really goes to show you and goes to tell you how deep this thinking is. This thinking of white is better.
Yeah.
Just to put it simply, it cuts across different parts. When you go to places, in some places in Africa, and you speak as though you have a foreign accent, you are treated better. You are welcome into bigger rooms. You are assumed to be more educated. So I'm talking from accents to the way that we dress, to the foods that we eat, to our culture, to the places that we deem as more beautiful, to the ideologies that we accept as being better. It really goes to show you how deep rooted this idea of white is better has really goes. It's very, very deep. It's not something that we can have a conversation on in just under an hour. So growing up in Nigeria, I definitely thought that white was better. I definitely thought that if you went to a foreign school, you were better off. If you had a different accent, you were better off. If you did anything that was Western, you were seen as more educated than, and it goes to, and it really is the same thing as how we embrace even our own identities and our own cultures. Mothers tell their children, do not speak in your local dialect. Learn English. English is the way to go. Once you speak English, you are educated, doors open for you. As a matter of fact, I went to my friend's house the other day and she was speaking a local dialect, a local Nigerian dialect, Yoruba to her daughter, and I was saying to her, I was applauding her on how amazing she was doing and how well, how great she was doing. And she goes, "Oh my goodness, I really welcome that encouragement, and I love that you're saying that because many places that I go, once my friends find out that I speak Yoruba to my children, they look at me and call me local, tacky, because again, it's the mentality of if you speak English, then you're better off. And so you see a lot of us losing our culture, losing our identity, losing our language, losing our foods, losing the things that are rich in culture, losing the things that identify us. And so when we have children, it's no surprise that we are constantly trying to fight racism. We're constantly trying to celebrate Black people and have all these Black History Month and all these amazing things. But the question is, are we okay with our identities? Are we celebrating ourselves outside of this 1 month that we set out to celebrate ourselves? Are we celebrating ourselves on a day-to-day basis? Because children do not do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you do.
Yes.
And so if your attitude about yourself is, this is not as great, this is better, that's what they're leaning towards.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why you see a lot of people with Black, they have a Black identity, a lot of children suffer from a low self-esteem.
Yes. So I come from that part of the world where bleaching creams are all over. I grew up applying that. I thought that was better, and it took me long, hard look at myself or more education and to see the world and say, oh, this is, this. So Dapo, did you grow up with toys, or were the toys all white? I was listening to one radio program yesterday, podcast actually, and where they talk about this girl goes to a beauty pageant, she wins, but all she wins are these white dolls, which don't look anywhere like her. And she had a real crisis of identity, and what did she get into? So, that's how what was your life like? I mean, growing up, Dapo?
Well, I grew up in Nigeria. I would say fortunately, and I wouldn't say I didn't have that kind of direct experience, in the sense that I grew up at home with my parents ensuring that I spoke in my native dialect, my native language, which is Yoruba, as an example. So we spoke that, generally at home. And so I knew that, I studied that. So I lived within the Yorubas and all that. And the only thing I would say was, for some reason, and I wouldn't say this is coming from my home or from my parents, but while in school, I still remember in primary school, I went to a private school, a private Catholic school, in fact, and I had a few, just percentage of the population being white. So for some reason, I mean, I was a little kid, they were attractive. Like you're looking at these people look different, that kind of a thing. But did I see them as being superior at that time? No, I think it was all curiosity for me. Like, oh, somebody else looks like this, or somebody else doesn't talk the way I talk, and somebody else doesn't understand what I say so that was pretty much my experience. But very clearly, I can't remember for sure because I have female siblings and friends and all that. Very clearly, I can tell you that I saw that all the toys, the baby toys they played with, were white. But it never occurred to me why that was. I just thought it was the norm. Like if I had seen a black one, it would have felt weird. You understand? Seriously.
Yeah.
So that's much I saw. But in terms of my upbringing and all that, we spoke English. We did this is Nigeria. English is our national language. So, but then our native tongue, we clearly spoke that. So that was never really an issue. Other than that, I wouldn't say I experienced anything that was unusual in that sense.
So we are all in Canada, and we're talking about Black history in Canada. So what as new immigrants, I'm fairly new. I've been here less than 3 years. So what do you think as new immigrants that we should be aware of the Canadian Black history. I don't know if any of you are at that position to talk about it or not, but if at all, what do you think? Dapo?
Yeah, so let me take this. I think as Black Canadians, it's like we said at the beginning, it's definitely important for us to to acknowledge ourselves, but it's also important to also know that there's been beyond Hey, beyond Meena, beyond Dapo, there have also been people who lived before us, right? So there are, but people don't know. We don't know a lot about this. Even I had to make concerted effort to actually go read up about these people. And I'm talking about, people like PK Subban, who is a hockey player, but he's Black. He's donated millions of dollars to Montreal Hospital. I don't know how many people really know him from that perspective. They just, hockey player. But the laudable achievements that this person has done, I don't know how many people even know that. People like Donovan Bailey, who was a sprinter in the 1996 Olympics and did extremely well. Viola Desmond was another person who was an activist for desegregation and a pioneering businesswoman. How many people know about this? So I think for me, it's important to go back and just sometimes even as parents, maybe it's just to look for histories about these people and teach them to our children and talk about them. Because you know what? If we don't talk about these achievers and make it a tradition that we want to celebrate these people and talk about them to our kids, then maybe our kids might not even have an idea that there are certain things that are worth celebrating. They might not even see them. It becomes more difficult for our kids to see these people as heroes, as people worth emulating, things like that. So I think it's important. It's not to say that I do it, but it's a reminder. In fact, I will tell you, since I've been in Canada, this is the first time I'm so conscious of a Black History Month. It's weird. So how could I even have taught my kids about Black achievers if I, as a parent, didn't even know? So, some of these people that I talked about, I think we should learn about them as parents, and more, the women, the men, those who did well, those who didn't even do well as well, that we probably hear on the news, and share why. You understand?
It's also not important just to hear about successes. It's also important to know and understand the struggles. I mean, how did we get here to be able to stand on this land and say, okay, call it our own? There is so much that went behind it. It's not always about successes. There are people who achieved a lot, but I think, do you have anything to add to that, Ehi?
Absolutely. And as Dapo was speaking, I was like, yes, because representation matters. And we know this, and we talk about this all the time. We say this in our circles as entrepreneurs, as business people, as professionals. We say this all the time. Now, I think the call to action really with all of us is we need to do better. And the way that we do better is really, and I hear you, Meena, when you say your struggles and your not so victorious stories, and that's great to share. But I tell you, there is not enough being said about the successes of Black people.
Yeah.
And let me say this, if we just shine the light on people who are successful, who look like you and I think there is just that encouragement that comes from your spirit to know, you know what? This is my land. I am just as welcome here. And it doesn't matter what the next person says. Hey, the people that have gone ahead of me, they've done this, they've done that. And you can actually name names like what Dapo said. Mm-hmm. I think that's important for children. Yeah. Representation matters. So for some of us, for me growing up in Nigeria, just like Dapo, I grew up in a very amazing home. My parents were well-to-do. We were okay. I didn't really see myself as, I didn't see anybody as better than me per se, but I know that a lot of our children will struggle. A lot of the children that grow up here will struggle. Why? When I grew up in Nigeria, every successful person that I saw looked like me. Every successful person that I saw was Nigerian, was Black. The millionaires and the billionaires, I'm talking in dollars, look like me. I didn't need the extra motivation to know that I was important and I could do whatever I wanted to do. Now, if you take that back to our children who grew up here, if they don't know that there are Black people who are doing amazing things in the areas of sports, in the areas of community involvement and philanthropy and science and discoveries and blah blah blah, if they don't know that, then we need to do twice the work.
Yes.
See, because we take for granted that the world that we grew up in is not the same world that our children are growing up in.
Yeah.
So representation matters. And really, as parents, our job is to take initiatives, not just as parents, as leaders. Our job is to take the initiative to educate people, to let people know. And but in order to do that, then we need to do the research first.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Meena. I think I just want to even also add to this and say this. As you're talking again, hey, I'm just listening and reflecting at the same time. I think we're probably going to take up, and Meena, you can, I think we should take up a project. Let's see how we can even have a database of achievements of the people of color in Canada. And I think to start us off, I have, for some reason, I registered the domain a while back, peopleofcolor.ca. So probably we're just going to use that as a database and ask people to go submit. And it's a place you can search and find out about people of color in Canada and what they've done. Simple, nothing more, nothing less. You just put it there and you know somebody that we don't, because we don't know everybody. I'm in Calgary, you are in Ontario, somebody might be in Yukon, a Black person who's done so well. Like, how do we get and reach out to all those people? So I think that's what we do. We just create a database. People can submit the information. People can see peopleofcolor.ca. When it's going to happen, I don't know. But I think it's something that we should actually, contribute as immigrants.
That's a brilliant idea, and I would love to be a part of that because, like you said, there's so many people, there's medical doctors, there's scientists that I personally know who are doing extraordinary things. But they're not in the media. They're not out there. They don't like to be out there. They're busy with their head down. I recently said to one of them, who I know is working on a multi-million dollar project, and I said to her, do you understand how important what you're doing is for other women? And she goes, she gets it, but she doesn't have the time. She doesn't have the time for even media interviews. And I'm like, you need to create the time, not just for yourself, for other people who are second guessing themselves, who are doubting themselves, who are thinking, well, there's no one like me who's been there.
Yeah.
And she owns a multitude of companies. So I think that's a brilliant action right there, actionable item.
I think role models. I mean, I was doing a lot of research about all these people of color and diversity in Canada. That's what I've been doing for the past almost 1 month. And I had to really look deep into Google search, like go into 20 pages to find out about people. What did somebody do in Nova Scotia? I have no idea because it's not out there. It's not being reported. It's not there. So you have to dig deeper. And then I think this would be a great idea. So let's just come back. I mean, we seem to digress and come back, but it's so did it surprise to you that Canada seems to have started this Black History Month a little later? I mean, to me, it was very surprising. So did it surprise you at all? I mean, I'm glad it got it, but what do you, in 1995 was, that's pretty late for the recognition.
So I wouldn't say that I'm surprised, but I know one thing for sure, Meena. If we don't tell our own stories, no one's going to tell for us. No one has any business in telling our stories. So I'm not necessarily surprised. It just really helps me. It reinforces the point that it's our job, it's our responsibility to go on the rooftops and noise about ourselves and shout on the rooftops about our accomplishments and shout on the rooftops about the things that we want, because nobody else is doing that for us. So Canada started Black History Month in 1995. It took a Jean Augustine to do that. Check that out.
Check that out.
It took someone of a caliber of Jean Augustine to push for that to happen. So whatever we want to see, we have to do it ourselves.
Do it, yes.
Because it's not just going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to as well say this, like the whole idea about legislating a Black History Month started in the 70s.
Yes.
It started in the 70s. And the reality is, I can imagine, I mean, I read tons of things, but I can imagine why it was such a difficult thing. When you don't realize that certain people are being marginalized, when it doesn't even come to your consciousness that certain people are being marginalized, how can you correct it? So, when you've grown so dull to the sensitivity of, or to be sensitive to other people's points, or when you've gotten so insensitive to equity, that kind of a thing, then for me, the question we should be asking really should be, Why did it take so long, right? Why do we even have, I think the fundamental question, why do we even have to earmark a day or a month to celebrate blacks? That's a fundamental question, and you tell us something. Why don't we have White History Month? Why? Because we don't need it. We celebrate white every day, not being trying to be, not, but it's not to undermine the other race, but to say if we need a law to celebrate a particular race, then there is a problem. It's a fundamental problem, and we need that. Those are things we need to address. Thank you.
I think this whole thing is also part of that, correcting the whole, whatever wrongs were done. So now it's our part, it's our role. I think we all have a role in correcting all that. So I just want to touch upon those two recent reports that Statistics Canada brought out. The Black population in Canada is growing significantly. Means that there is an opportunity to create a new history, because there is a new big population. There's a lot of immigrants coming in, and we have the opportunity to write new stories, create new history, and create new narratives. However, when I go back to look at those two reports, there are some very disturbing facts. For example, 94% of the Black youth think they should get a bachelor's degree or they should get higher education. But they seem to doubt that they would get there. Like only 60% think that they would get it, while they want to get it. But then there is this big gap. There is this thing like, I don't think I can get there. Their desire is there, but the means, maybe the means are not there. What do you think what do you think is behind that kind of thought that goes into a black youth's mind to perceive like that?
So I'll take that. And here's the thing. As you know, I call myself the mindset surgeon because I'm a mindset coach, and I think that everything starts on the inside. I think it's an inside job. I think it's rather unfortunate that 94% of Black youth think they need to grab a higher degree, and only 6% follow through. Again, let's go back to the representation thing. If a person does not believe that you're important, if a person does not believe that you're relevant, if a person does not believe that you're necessary, then they're going to act it out. Their actions are going to show that. The decisions that they make are going to follow after their thought pattern. Okay, so not to bring this back to mindset, but indeed, this is a huge paradigm in the minds of Black youth, saying to themselves, I don't think I can get there. Why don't they think they can get there? Maybe because of other socio-economic issues. Maybe because they don't think that even if they do get there, that you're ever going to be useful members of society. Maybe they think that getting having a higher degree is not for people like them. Maybe it's for other people who don't necessarily look like them. There's so many reasons. But I think the more important question is getting into the minds of these people. How do they perceive themselves? What do they think about themselves? When they wake up in the morning, are they hit with, get out of, are they hit with just negativity? Do they have mentors around them? Do they have people who are doing things that they want to do? Do they think that their dreams are valid and relevant? Do their parents have the time to tell them that this is something that they should do and they're deserving and worthy of? Are they treated as people whose opinions matter?
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is a huge paradigm shift that needs to happen. Before we even start talking about the external, I'm interested in how do they think? What do they think of themselves? What kind of thoughts are they carrying around every single day going, oh, I'm just here to survive? So a lot of these people who come in here as children of first-generation immigrants have a survival mindset, which is, I'm not really that relevant. I'm just here to get by and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Their counterparts are being told that they can go to space and they can go to the moon and they can do this and they can do that. It's so easy to believe that. Why? Because your uncle went to the moon. Your grandfather's connected to Elon Musk's brothers, cousins, nephews. There is representation.
Uh-huh.
let's not even get into race here and gender. But when a white man walks into a room, he walks in with a certain audacity that it will take a black person many so many sessions of therapy to get to know that they belong there. Automatically, a white man is not thinking they're going to think this of me and that. They don't care.
Yeah.
They just walk in knowing, they have a knowing that they belong there. For a lot of people of color, we have to talk ourselves into that.
That's true.
So it's a huge mindset disparity that urgently needs to be worked on.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add to that, Dapo?
Well, he has spoken. She said it all. Really, it's
Yeah.
that statistics that you quoted. It's all about the mindset. It's. I mean, you want to, but you don't think you can. It starts from the mind. That's what I see there. And maybe one thing I would just probably stress is, I think kids, because that statistics refer to kids and youth and all that. I think kids typically pick up their self-worth, their sense of self-esteem from home.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that also underscores parenting in everything we're talking about. It's all about parenting. You know, schools can do their best, mosques can do their best, churches can do their best, coaches can do their best, but it all starts, everything that was built from the home. So as parents, I think it's a call for us to be conscious about how we actually invest the right things into our kids, whatever it is that, you know, we need to do to ensure that we build that strong self-esteem. Hear what he said. He said, and it's true. When a white man enters a room, there's that audacity, there's that sense of, I am here, you need to recognize me kind of a thing. Or there's a sense of, yeah, I have the right to be here. In fact, and I mean, there are different countries and all that, but I used to say that Americans, this is me, and if you're an American and you are here, or you are listening to me, but I used to say that Americans are very, that they are very, forgotten the word I used to use, but they have this sense of
entitlement.
Exactly, entitlement. Like what? Like they just that sense of I am. It is me. Don't you understand? I'm an American. Do you know what that means? Like to have that kind of worth, that kind of thinking and mentality. It's huge. There is a book I read when I was I think I was in high school. It's by this guy, Dexter Yeagers. That's the guy's name. Dexter Yeagers is a multimillionaire in the States. And, you know, there was a way he brought up his kids, or he was brought up as well, actually. And he tried to pass that on to his kids. And that was when certain things were happening, his parents would tell him, the Yeagers don't do that. That's not who we are as the Jaeger. So I mean, that kind of mindset, and it's similar to where I come from as well. Even when I was coming here as an adult with my own family, my father gave me a book. The title of the book is called, and you know, you won't understand this, you know, but the title of the book is called Omoluabi. What that simply means is irresponsible, or how do I translate it? Like a well-brought-up child, a child who's living the right way, something like that. Like, and it's apart from just giving me the book, he sat me down and talked to me. I was in my 30s. I was married. I had 2 kids. He just sat me down and said, "Hey, when you get there, this is how to behave." You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So, that's the thing. That's what we need to put into our kids, to say, "Hey, you don't need to wait to be invited into a room. Invite yourself, go enter, open the door, knock, open it. If nobody opens the door, come on, open it and enter and sit and say, how are you, everybody? Come into your good afternoon or whatever. Like, don't wait, sure." And so it's so important. Again, it's all about the mindset, but I want to put the responsibility in parents. On myself, I'm a parent. We're all parents. I mean, at least the 3 presenters here. So it's a lot of work. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but the fact is, on the long run, we are building the next generation, and we'll be happier for it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just looking at that report also, it just made me realize that one particular race is facing this challenge. In Canada, it's like, is that coming from racial? Again, maybe they don't see people like them succeeding. Maybe they don't see people like them going places. Maybe they don't see people like them achieving higher things. And is that what's getting into the self-esteem and then making them hold back? Just one race, let's say, is facing this. This report clearly says that it's the Black race which is facing this problem of just not seeing themselves as achievers. As again, I'm sure it's a mindset thing.
Yeah, and not to happen on about psychology. I'm pretty sure you didn't come in here to talk about psychology, but Meena, I hate to break it to you, but it's 80% psychology. Like Dapo said, I don't know what he said because I'm not Yoruba, but like whatever he said, I didn't even have to listen. I didn't have to help get his interpretation. I knew what he was going, because this is instilled in you. It is inbuilt. You don't even need to be told. You know who you are. It is inbuilt. Now, we have that advantage because, again, when you look around, growing up in Nigeria, you look around, every successful person looks like you. There is not a slight incline that maybe I'm not meant to be here. No, you belong, So literally, we have to do that job. We have to do that work for our children and remind them of where they're coming from. Your ancestors were amazing. Your forefathers that went before you, don't get confused that you were in a different space that you may not understand. But the people that went before you are successful. And it's this inbuilt thing he's talking about is not something you do overnight. It's something that is, I don't know how to, it's something that gets ingrained into the children. Mm-hmm. So when you give me statistics, by Statistics Canada, it is a reflection of two things. Number one, these parents probably also have an issue with the way they've been showing up. Or number two, they may not have an issue, but they're not successfully able to pass on that inbuilt "we're meant to be here" mentality to their children. Okay, there are two things. These children are probably surrounded by parents who constantly depressed, are constantly questioning, why am I even here? I'm not being successful. Are constantly at the back of the room. Or you're born to successful parents who are not able to successfully pass on that way of thinking, that you're meant to be here, that don't forget who you are kind of thinking to their children. And this is why we've been stressing on it's not enough to be successful. It's not enough to have a great mindset. It's not enough to have the psychology or the thinking that I am amazing. You have to do the work to pass it on to your children. Otherwise, they will struggle because we take for granted that we don't have the same backgrounds as our children. They will struggle. They definitely will struggle because you're going to go into their classes, your classrooms, and the thing that you refuse to tell them, the thing that you fail to train them on, another kid is going to tell them why they don't belong. And you don't blame that kid. That kid is also bringing out their own paradigms from their own homes and their own cultural upbringing. You're going to tell them, well, do you have you're not fit for this opportunity because my father told me that people from Africa are poor and don't have homes and don't have running water because this is what they see on TV. But you have not educated your child that you are different. You are son of the soil. Don't forget who you are. You are just amazing. You belong. You deserve to be in that room just like any other person. You refuse to say to them because you assume that they would know it. And it's that assumption that kills us.
So again, we just have to think about it. It seems like a multidimensional problem. It's not just on one thing. It's on education. It's on employment. It's on representation, in political representation. It seems like a multifaceted problem. It's not, and so how do you address something like this? I mean, I know it might just. It's not easy and it's not doable overnight. It's a slow process, but how do you even start? I think Black History Month, Black Lives Matter, movements like this are what would start the change. So what would you say are, how do you do that? What would you say? Okay, I would start here.
I mean, you set up mentorship. You set up mentorship for these children. Again, a lot of these kids don't see people who look like them every day being successful, because it's the negative news that's getting the attention. It's the stuff that puts a lot of people down that's getting the attention. But we talked about these black people, black inventors, black scientists, and black political figures, and black philanthropists who are not celebrated. So these kids don't know that there are people that look like them who are at the top of their career. So it really starts by us telling our own stories and really just putting a whole lot of effort into that representation and having that mentorship structure, so these black kids understand that they're not alone.
Dapo, do you have to?
Yeah, what I keep saying, yeah, what he said. In my family, we have one funny thing when we're having daily prayers, devotion, and we talk about this and that, and then we'll ask, okay, so what do you think? And we have this funny thing that the other person, sometimes we want to be lazy and just say, yeah, what that person said. so, so we made it more like a rule. No, don't do that. No. So when you say what that person said, no, not accepted. So yeah, I won't say what he said, but mentorship is definitely, I think, first, parenting is key. We have to, everything starts from there. Like they say, everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything starts with the leader. So as parents, we need to own that. Not blame the school, not blame the government, not blame the community, the environment, your uncle, your sister. And no, you own it. Let's start from there. Then secondly is the mentorship that Ehi talked about as well. And I think the third thing I would also definitely want to say is ourselves as parents. How are we living our lives? What example are we showing to our kids? Okay. When you fall, and it's normal in life, you will fall down. I have said, things will happen. When you lose your job, do you cave in under that? Don't forget, your kids are watching you. Do you cave in under that? Or do you bounce back? So how do you respond to, and maybe it's a digression, but it's just I don't know, I think I just need to say it. I find that kids these days are getting so, I don't know, should I say lily-livered, or so fragile, so everything hurts them and everything, they look down like, oh, they're very sensitive. That's the word, that's the right word. And they're not tough-minded. Life has no respect for you. Whether you're an American, you're white, you're black, you're yellow, purple, you're a baby, you are not. Life has no respect for you. It's gonna do what it's gonna do anyways. And you can't control that, unfortunately. I wish you can, but you can't. So we need to hone things and say, when I fall, I am rising up. As long as I can look up and there's the sun over there, then I'm getting up. So when we respond to challenges of life in a very positive way, and we don't give up and we don't look down on ourselves, I think, in my opinion, that is the best example we can give to these kids. That is how, sorry, go ahead.
But I just wanted to go back on that report, because that report also showed that a high percentage of Black-owned homes are lone parents, like single parents. Like, I think we have the privilege of, we have 2-parent households, we earn, but when you are a single parent taking care of children, you probably are working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, and you're probably not there for your children when they need you. How do you do that? How do you instill that whole thing? And I mean, by working hard, yes, one. But besides that, how do you, I'm sure they'll see you struggling, they're running for 3 jobs. Is that where the examples come? Oh, my mom's doing 3 jobs. That's where I'm going to land up. That's where my future is going to be. Maybe that's where they don't see a better future for themselves, don't you think?
Can I take this, or you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I totally. That's again, you're right. This whole challenge that we face and trying to rewrite a better history, create a better history for ourselves is, yes, it is. It is multidimensional. We cannot hinge it on just one thing for sure. And I think that's what the report is also talking about. Of course, talking about mindset, self worth, and then we're talking about parents, single family homes. I totally agree. I don't come from a single family home, so take my words with a grain of salt. Okay? But here's the thing. I grew up for sure, like probably the first time I'll say this. Yeah. And I'll say it. It's okay. It's fine. So I grew up definitely not in a single family home, like I said, with my mom and my dad, and I grew up with them. But there was a point in my life, okay, when my parents had a conflict and they actually lived apart. So in a way, I was part of that kind of thing, right? That's in a way, but it was I know the number, it was for 6 years of my life. Actually, yeah, I know precisely when and how it ended and all that. And the reason I'm saying again is the first time I'm saying this publicly. My parents might be watching this because they're on Facebook, very active in their 80s, and that's fine. So, but the point I'm making is, let's talk about marriage, and this underscores why at Immigrant Life, we are focusing on some cardinal areas of a person's life. We want you to thrive. We want you to thrive as a person, as an individual, as an immigrant that is here. But we decided to focus on finance, to focus on fiscal well-being, to focus on mental health, to focus on family, to focus on your social relationships, to focus on your career and all this cardinal thing, even spiritual life kind of a thing. So this underscores why we do that. For you to really thrive in life. I never really understood some of these things. Like I had a mentor back in the days in Nigeria, and he told me I dream too much for myself. Actually, I just create different ideas. I'm very, very idealistic. And the guy, he said, young man, go and get married. I mean, I planned that I was going to get married at a very young age, but it didn't work out. That's fine. So I just wanted to face my life. I said, go get married. What? Go check it statistically, apart from what Statistics Canada has said. Generally, it's been found that people who generally succeed in life, usually they're not from single homes. Because there's that thing about support. You need somebody who can accept you and not judge you. Because again, life is harsh. The life out there beyond your room, once you step out, it's harsh. So you need somebody who can accept you with all your faults and still be that support for you and not the person to beat you down in your presence or behind you. You understand? Mm-hmm. So, and the reason I'm going this direction is, as married people, you will face challenges. You will face challenges. Now, if you're in an abusive relationship, I'm not saying stay. Please, by all means, your life first. When you're alive, you can restore things. If it's abusive, just go. That's my own perspective. Doesn't matter what you believe. Just go. Now, let's protect our marriages. That is key. That is fundamental. We need to protect our relationship. Now, how does somebody who is a single, you found yourself, you're a single mother or you're a single father, you are taking, I do have friends in that situation. How do they do it? How should they do it? They tend to work multiple jobs, like you said. It is true, because at the end of the day, they have to fend for themselves, like there's no support from anywhere. Then what should they do? How can they do it? Seek support, seek help. This is why you cannot afford to live in isolation. Get help, make friends. So that even if you are not there, community is key to this thing. Like they always say, you've probably heard it and probably said it yourself. It takes a village to raise a child. Whether you are single family home or you are, still married and in love and everything, it takes the village to raise a child. So in that situation, all I would say is, you know what? It's what's happened to life. And in responding to life, you stand up to say, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I will ensure that my kids have a great future. I will work out for them. That's fine. But you need that emotional support. You need that community support. So get it. Don't stay on your own is what I'll say. And enlist the support of coaches or mentors or people who have the same kind of values that you have. Let them bring them into the life of your kids. Expose your kids to them so that when you are not available, these people are there for you. It's what it is. It's unfortunate, but you just have to do it to ensure that you recreate the kind of future that you want. Hey, sorry, over to you.
Oh no, you said it all. I do believe that people in single parent homes have massive challenges, and I mean, I'm happily married, and I still have a lot of challenges trying to, trying to raise my son in the way that I want to raise him. It seems to be not enough time. So here's some practical things that I have personally done to create more time for the things that are important to me. I only focus on my area of brilliance, and I don't know if this is a digression, but I know that someone's listening to this who might want to hear this. I only be. Oh, looks like okay.
Yeah,
Can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I am the mindset surgeon, and that's all I want. That's all I ever want to be. I don't want to be the nanny, the chef, the cleaner, the housekeeper. I have a housekeeper who comes in, not necessarily. And I know someone's going to listen to this and go, "Yeah, it's easy to say if you can afford it, blah blah blah." I had to figure out how I can afford it so I can focus on the things that are important to me, such as raising my son, such as being the CEO of my business, because I found that I was spending a whole lot of time doing the things that I had no business with. Cleaning, cooking, washing bathrooms. That's not my area of brilliance. So I was bold enough to acknowledge that, and I sat with my husband. I said, "Listen, we're not going to do this because there is just not enough time in the day." So I have a housekeeper who comes in, I have a person who cooks for me occasionally. So I'm not saying everybody can afford this, but I would just piggyback on what you said, Dapo. Get as much support as you can. It's okay to delegate. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to create a community. But whatever you can pay for it so you can be in your children's life, so you can have the time and support them in the ways that you can. So you're not bogged down vacuuming floors and doing laundry and folding clothes. And then the most important thing, you don't have energy for at the end of the day. So it's penny wise, pound foolish. Figure out a way to delegate and leverage on other people's skills so you can pass on the values that you really want to pass into your children, or focus on the things that are important to you. So that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Yes, I think people would say, "Oh, that's easier said than done." If I'm running for 3 jobs, I really don't have the means to do that. But yeah,
I get that. I mean, if a single mom is running around 3 jobs, there's a reason she's doing that. There's a reason she's caught up in the rat race. I'm just saying, if you're caught up in the rat race, it means that there's a cycle that needs to be broken. And just acknowledging that the cycle that needs to be broken is the first step. You don't have to know the how yet, but just know that it's not ideal to be walking around the clock. And then your children who are supposed to be, we're talking about representation, we're talking about sitting down, we're talking about Black history, we're talking about mentorship. Where's the time to do all of that when you're walking around the clock? Where's the time to do that? So you're perpetuating a vicious cycle that's going to keep going on and on.
Right.
So I'm not saying necessarily have the way out right now, but just acknowledge to yourself that it's not ideal, because I see a lot of people being proud of working 3 jobs, proud of their business, proud of never spending time at home, and they talk to you about how they're so hardworking and that's great. But we really need to change our mindset around that particular area. There are easier ways to do things. But I guess what I'm really saying is, even if you don't know the how, just acknowledge that it's not ideal to work 3, 4, 5 jobs because you're a single mom, and then your children, you don't have the time to show them what it's like to be a successful Black male in society, or what it's like to listen to them, what it's like to do the things really that are important. So we may not know the way out of the 3 jobs for now, but just understand that it's not ideal. And then once you start to understand it's not ideal, life has a way of introducing other opportunities to you that give you more time freedom.
I think that's where the Immigrant Life community is, where we are building a community, and going forward, I'm sure there would be points where we could be helped. So I just wanted to just go back on Black Lives Matter. We all talk about Black Lives Matter. We all know what it is, and there is a lot of noise about Black Lives Matter, and it's the right noise that's coming. But do you see that translated into action? Like, how do you view it? Has there been much translation into action, and people are really doing the right thing, or is it just talk and just out there, people putting on Instagram, oh, I'm learning, and when will the learning end and action begin, things like that.
That's for AE, right?
Yeah, it's for both of you.
You can go for it.
No. I don't know. I wish AE started this, but
give you time to think.
Yeah, exactly. To give me time to think, and then I'll look smart.
I was new. It was new to me when it came in June, July, when this whole Black Lives Matter and Instagram went blank with black things, and everybody was talking about, oh, we are learning, we are trying to understand this, and it's kind of like a little sad that people are trying to understand this now, but thank God it's starting. But at the same time, I keep looking back. I do a lot of media surfing, and again, the representation, the kind of thing that's out there, it's not changing. It's not, it's very heavily white. It's heavily white content. It's heavily white for by white. And then my question is, when do you think, if at all, if you've seen that in your community, if you've seen that in the government policies, I really am not aware of all that. So if you are aware, has that led to any concrete change?
So I'm going to take this one. So Black Lives Matter is a movement that started with a Black woman, which I believe the Black Lives Matter is actually up for Nobel Peace Prize, believe it or not. The Black Lives Matter movement is up, or the person who started it, I think she's Stacy, she's up for Nobel Peace Prize, which in my opinion is absolutely amazing. So pre-Black Lives Matter, post-Black Lives Matter, your question is there a difference? I think there is a difference. I think there is a slow graduation. I think there's the changes, but maybe they're not changes that are as fast as we want them to happen, or as quickly as we want them to happen. But I can definitely tell you for a fact that awareness of the issue, which a lot of people were not even aware of how dire the situation was before the Black Lives Matter movement came about. So the one thing I would say the Black Lives Matter movement has accomplished is shedding light on the inequality that exists, shedding light on how much racism exists, how much injustice existed, which a lot of people were not aware of. So just us putting that under the label of Black Lives Matter has brought enough awareness to say that if Black Lives Matter movement does nothing else again, I think it has been successful, because it's helped to bring the whole idea of injustice and inequality to a lot of the people who may never have taken it seriously. Now, to you, the second part of your question, has there been a difference? I personally, again, I'm going to go back to this. There is no movement. There is no, yes, even the Martin Luther King civil rights movement, movements are great, but there is no movement that is more powerful than an individual, a set of people, collectively or individually, deciding to change their mind. Okay? So there's a lot of burden on the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that we're giving it so much credit, and we think that suddenly, because of BHM, our lives are going to be changed. We're going to be acknowledged. This is going to change. Racism is going to be eradicated, and that's going to happen. And this and the other. I think I think that we don't understand that this is just a movement like any other movement, and the people behind the movements are people like you and I who just dare to do something, and it's not going to go. Racism is not going to go away overnight. Injustice is not going to go anywhere. Inequality is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Which is why I started this conversation by saying that everything stems from the way that we think about ourselves. So Black Lives Matter is not a savior. It's not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. But the other day, I have to say that there was a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, which I fail to remember, but I think it's the Goldman Sachs. And correct me if I'm wrong. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, the CEO was a woman by the name of Fasunda, was appointed, a Black woman of an African descent, was appointed the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Now, I think that is progress. I think that the vice president, Kamala Harris being the vice president, is progress. I think that there's a lot of black movements or black things that have happened around the world that may have stemmed from that awareness of what happened in the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, has there been a change? I think there is a change. It's a gradual and progressive change. But you want to know what would bring about the greatest impact? Individual resolutions, collect resolutions as an individual or as a collective group of people, to stop waiting for people to give us the seat at the table, to stop waiting for people to hand us titles, to stop waiting for people to treat us better, and we have to start treating ourselves better. That's my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Sure, go ahead.
Now I have something to say after the two of you talk. Anyway, I'll make this very quick. And I just want to emphasize the fact that saying that Black Lives Matter, and I'm saying this because I do have friends, very good friends of white heritage that don't believe. We had a bit of some arguments, and then we went our different ways. We didn't stop being friends, but we just realized that, you know what, that's where you are, that's where I am, and then we just talked about something else. But I think there's a misunderstanding about Black Lives Matter, thinking that by saying Black Lives Matter, it means that all other lives don't matter. It is not. There's also a misunderstanding that suggests that saying Black Lives Matter means we're asking for equality. I don't believe so. I think it's about equity. Okay? Equity and equality, they are not the same. They're totally different things. In the sense that if I need 6 inches in order to get over the fence, and another person needs 9 inches to get over the fence, I shouldn't be asking for 9 inches for the two people. I should give the person who needs 9 inches the 9 inches that he needs, and the guy who needs just 6 inches or even 2 inches to get over the fence, so for me, and it sounds like because of a lot of injustice that has happened to blacks over generations and all that, it appears that a lot of blacks need more of the 6 inches, more of the 9 inches, and the non-blacks need 2, and then they are feeling like, why should you give them 9 when I'm getting 2? It's not about equality, it's about equity, and I think that's what it is about Black Lives Matter. Like, there's a lot of just check the movies and see the narration that is there. It is the blacks that will be drugged. Just check. It is blacks that will be, according to what Statistics Canada is saying, it's black homes that will have the father being a drug addict and being sent to jail, and then the mother being single and the child being raised without a father, and all those. It's black. So changing the narrative, acknowledging that things are wrong, and saying, just knowing that this is about equity and not equality, is what I think Black Lives Matter is all about. And about change, has there been a considerable, significant change from the government, from wherever? I wouldn't say yes. I would say it's gradual. The first step is, can you just even acknowledge it? Which I think the government is acknowledging now, and particularly in Canada, our Prime Minister is doing a lot, and they are opening up different support groups and things like that. And there is also this man that I respect so much. One day I will have him in the room here, Wes Hall. He's Jamaican in heritage, but he started the Black North Initiative, okay, which is all he's doing is getting organizations, in Canadian organizations, to actually sign an agreement. And I saw it, sign an agreement that they will make, it possible for blacks to rise within the organization, giving them the same opportunity that the whites have without even thinking about it. Making conscious efforts to ensure that they invite blacks to the table. So for me, the whole thing about George Floyd is one person who really made, seriously, a lot of these things, I didn't get to know about them until last year when George Floyd died. So he might have died, but I think it's, at least the first thing is, let's start the conversation. And the conversation has started. And it will take time. This has been centuries, but it will take time, but we will get there. So I think, it's positive.
I think creating a level playing field is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to correct. Yes, I wanted to correct what I said about the woman who became the CEO. So it's actually J.P. Morgan. She just
Julie Moore.
so she just became the CEO a couple days ago, and she's called Fasunda Brown Dockett. Okay, African American origin, and I think that's an amazing feat, not just for Black people, but even for women all around the world. So yes, the feats are changing, but maybe not as fast as people would want to see.
Yeah. As long as there's change coming slow, we're evolving in the right direction. So I just wanted to now get into like, how do we go forward? Is like, do you think that there are some particular programs should be curated for a particular population, like, focused on the Black? Should there be a curated program? Would that work? Or should there be something we should think about or advocate for, campaign for? What do you think?
Okay, I'll go first. Don't worry. So that it won't be what Ehi said. Okay, I'll go first on this one. So the fact is I am conflicted on this one. I am conflicted, and I'll tell you why. When I see the government, when I see people opening up funds and trying to open up opportunities for Blacks and hedge funds and all sort of things, I am happy. But on the other hand, I am concerned. And my concern is I don't want to be pitied. I don't want my race to be pitied. I don't want to be handed down stuff like, let's help them.
Tokenism. That's
like, you understand? Tokenism. Yeah, exactly. I don't want that. Do you understand? I think so. Again, yes, more of those things are happening and I'm seeing it and all that. But again, I think I would rather just give me the same opportunity that you're giving the other counterparts, and the Black spirit in me, for whatever that means, will seize it and do what is needful. Okay, I would do my best when I have the same opportunity, that kind of a thing. So again, it's good, but I don't want to be pitied. I don't want my race to be pitied. Like, let's just help. Like, let's help them, otherwise they won't get to where they're.
Affirmative action, you mean, like affirmative action for Blacks?
Yeah, what do you mean by that, by the way?
Affirmative action is where you give them particular positions and all to make sure that there is enough representation and all that. So that's
that's equity. According to your definition, that's equity. So that would not be handing down stuff. That would be
equity.
Yeah.
So curating a particular. That's my thought. I mean, is that of help, or is it like should it be based on race-based curated programs, or would that be of not help? Like Dapo said, is it more like a pity thing? But again, I mean, come to think of this, you are probably somebody who's accomplished, and you're in a position to say, I don't want a pity thing, or I don't want something handed down to me. Do you think there are people who actually need that kind of help, or a little bit of pull, or a little bit of push?
Yeah, and it's such a tricky question to ask, because I feel the same way as Dapo, because there's a difference between empowerment and spoon feeding or babysitting or handing me downs. Someone talks about the difference in a hand me down and a pick me up, or hand me downs. Really, I'm a coach, and I can tell you the hand me downs don't really help anybody. Like it's like in my world of
the dangers of hand me downs are more dependent, making them more dependent, right?
Exactly. It just relates me back to my world of coaching. People say, why do you charge so much? Because the people who pay more are the people who get the most results in my 7 years of coaching.
Yeah,
everybody pays me premium. They don't walk away with less than, I don't know. I can call some big numbers here, and people are going to roll their eyes and go, "That's not possible." The people who are in my lower end programs get results not as great as the people who are in my higher end programs. The people who get my free stuff don't get anything. They get inspired. They don't get results. They get inspired. They tell me, oh my goodness, Ehi, this is amazing. Wow, you opened my eyes and blah, blah, blah. You're checking on them a year later, they're in the same spot. Because inspiration is not what we need. We need you to put your money where your mouth is. We need the commitment. We need you to pull up your bigger pants. And sometimes someone cannot do that for you with PT hand-me-downs. And again, the reason I'm conflicted is because of what you said. There's people in different aspects and spaces in life, because of what I've been through. I can tell you for a fact that those things are not necessarily helpful, but will it help in the short term? Yes. Will it help a person to know that they belong and the government is thinking about them and the people want them here and the people and they're relevant and they're important? Yes, it will help, right? But in the long term, hand-me-downs has never done anything for anybody. And this is why you see a whole continent who's dependent on propagating the same narratives of we don't have, you gotta help us, are still in the same spot. And this is the other thing with charity. You give and give and give and give, and you never teach the person how to fish, how to
sustainable.
It's not sustainable. They don't feel empowered. They feel that they have to depend on this person to help them every time. Meanwhile, they've forgotten that they have legs. Now they're in the same spot, they're in a wheelchair, and you're propagating that message, that propaganda of you stay in one spot, just stay here and I'll just bring you food. And you never teach that person to use their food or use their feet and go fend for themselves. So in the long run, you're doing them more harm than good. In the short term, it does very much look like you've kept them alive. But in the long run, yeah, it's not so much, right? So I guess it depends. It depends. For some people, it's helpful, it's necessary in the moment, but it's not something that you should come to depend on because it's not a system and it's not sustainable.
And you're not creating strong persons and the kind of...
It's not empowering, simply put. It's not empowering. I'm going to liken it to coaching. There's a difference between a person telling you what to do and a good difference between a person empowering you. A good coach knows the difference. It's not empowering for me to sit here and tell you what to do. I'd rather tell you how to think so you can do it. Well over I've left your life, years after I've left your life, because I've taught you how to think. You can apply it to multiple situations, but if I tell you what to do, then you're dependent on me and you have to keep coming back to me. And it makes me look like a demigod and it makes you look smaller. And in actual fact, you were just as great as I am, not even greater. So that's the mindset.
Yeah, just to top up on that, and is the fact that what I also definitely think that what he said, I will just summarize, what doesn't cost you something, you don't value it. You definitely don't. If it doesn't cost you, you don't value it many times. And that's why people will not get results. Now, let's go back to, the government or people, organizations doing stuff. That's fine. I think it's okay. I think, again, let's go back to the word and analogy I use, equity. Okay? It's okay to meet people where they are. If you're at this level and you actually need that lifeline, by all means, you need to get it. Okay? But ultimately, what I like to say is for us Blacks, and for anybody really, but particularly Blacks, our freedom lies in ourselves. It's not in the other person. It's not in the government. It's not in our parents. It's not in our siblings. It's not in our friend or community or our neighbors or what have you. Ultimately, whatever it is, we need to take accountability and responsibility for our own lives. You can take help, and we should take help when we need it, but ultimately, we should not rely on that help. We should, in fact, what we should rather do is we should do things in a way where when you take help, you have a plan to get to a point where you also want to give the same help or better than what you took. If we have that mindset going in to take help, then we're back to the old mindset thing. It puts you at the top. It puts you, you are changing the course of history, is what I would say. So let's take help with the mindset of wanting to give the same help back in our own way for the other people. Let's not take help and lean on that help. That is totally no for me, and it will not help. It will not change anything.
Get help and create a chain reaction and have Mm-hmm.
Have a
I
plan
think
to be,
that's.
have a plan to be in a position to help other people in the future. So it's really the law of reciprocity. And if you're constantly getting, then you're never going to think of yourself as one who can give. But if you know at some point that you have to give back, um, you take the help with the plan of I will use this and I'll multiply it so I can come back and give to other less privileged people. If now that's
Mm-hmm.
a system, that's a system.
So I think we've spent 1 hour 15 minutes already and talking about this. So going forward, how would activism be or should be? I think activism should be a part of this. How do you think this movement, and as an individual, all of us, we talked about what we can do. How do you think it should going forward? What can we do as individuals other than recognizing the past, learning about it, and doing what?
And taking small actions individually. So Dapo brought up a very smart idea about people of color.ca. So that's what you and I can do. I think there is a very huge there's a thing about let's wait for them to do it, and there's no them. I think recognizing that there is no them and we are them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an immediate step that we can take in the moment. There is no them, we are them. And whatever small steps that you can take in your own little world, understanding that those little bubbles end up being really, really large sea buddies eventually if we keep the train going. So the mindset here is it doesn't matter how little you can do your part and just keep doing that because it adds up.
So one of my moments is like after I learned about and I'm reading a lot and is Black Lives Matter. Is every time I say something, I'm kind of I hold back and say, am I saying this right? Am I sensitive enough? Am I putting somebody down? That's a question I constantly ask myself. That's a kind of question I have to think like, is this consciously or unconsciously? Am I hurting somebody? Am I trying to putting somebody down? That's my individual effort I'm doing. What else can I do? Like, what else should I do? Should I be thinking when I'm, out there meeting people when we can, and joining the movement? What else should I be thinking about? Like, hey, think of it this way, or how? Is there anything that has
You can
struck you?
you can be more empathetic. You can be more empathetic. I during the Black Lives Matter movement, I knew a lot of my Caucasian friends were mute, and they were like, "I just want to listen, I have nothing to say." And I think that's a good step because oftentimes people don't understand, and they want to speak over you and tell you why, from their privileged spot, why what you're doing doesn't make any sense. So I think people can be quiet and listen. Another thing you can do is you can propagate, um, celebrate, just like you're doing right now. Talk about the issues in your own little way. Another thing you can do is you can celebrate Black people who are doing amazing things around the world, so other people can be in the know, so they can be aware that this is happening. There's so many things that we can do from our own little spots here, but I think it really starts by listening, contributing in a way anywhere that you can, but also celebrating and letting anybody that cares to listen know that this is also happening. But more importantly, when you see injustice being done to another person of color, not be quiet about it
Speak
because
up.
it's not your business. Like stepping in, having the audacity to say something, because it would amaze you that the number of people are who are racist are really very, very tiny. It's a tiny percentage
Yes.
of people. Majority of people fall under the Waka Pass group, which really is, it's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be quiet about it. But see, the thing is, the people who are quiet even do more harm and propagate more
Harm.
harm and more injustice than the actual racists or the
Uh-huh.
actual people who are not considerate. It's the people
Uh-huh.
who don't think it's your business, because majority of us fall in that category. See, there's three categories of people: the actual racists, the people who do nothing, and then the people who are on the other end of the spectrum who feel attacked, who feel not fairly
Suffering.
treated. Yes, exactly.
Also, how about businesses? Like, how do you support businesses that are, I think is that not the right way to help and, if there are small businesses that are run by Black, community,
So
I mean, I think it's not out there as much it's not the marketing is not there, or how do you help them economically? You're spending money, but when you're using your money,
I'm going to say something that sounds very contradictory, and it's not going to be a popular opinion. I don't go into business for Black people to support me. I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I don't have
Okay.
that mindset. I go into the marketplace to offer value. Black, white, purple, green. I am going to be irresistible, and you're going to buy. Doesn't matter how long it takes you, you will buy. It doesn't matter if my price point is anywhere from $6,000 to $30,000, and they buy. Because I don't go in looking for PD, I don't go in looking for support. I don't go into business looking for support. Don't support me, please. Especially as a coach, I don't want people who want to support me. I want people who want to support themselves. That's why you're working with me, because you want to take your life to the next level. If you're looking to working with me because you want to support me, or if you want to empower another Black business person, I don't know. Don't come to me. I'm just going to say that bluntly. Don't come to me because you want to support me. Come to me because you want to help yourself.
You want to support yourself.
Because you want to support yourself. Maybe that's because of the nature of my business, but I'm going to encourage every Black person to do business as though there was no friend or Black support around. Don't go into business thinking I'm just going to do it and Black people didn't support me. It causes a lot of grievances. It causes a lot of resistance, resentment and resistance. And a lot of things that you don't want, quite frankly, you actually don't want people supporting you. You want people buying because they want to buy. Now, if they do decide to support you because you're Black-owned businesses and women-owned businesses, I do that through other businesses. Like, there could be two people who do the exact same thing. And I'll say, I'd rather give my money to this person than go to Walmart. I do that, but I don't do it. I do it because of my own level of responsibility. I want to give back. I want to, but I don't do it because they've asked me to. I do it because this is where I want to spend my money. But I hope and I pray to God that those businesses are not going into businesses because they want to get support.
I think make your product as good that they don't look at that product speaks for itself, and I think just like your product. Programs
that you can be ignored. That's my theology, because I know if you do that, that's my philosophy, because I know if you do that, the Black people are going to come, the Caucasian people are going to come, the Asians are going to come, everybody's going to come. But if your mindset was, I'm going to do this because Black people can support me, you're going to be highly disappointed when you don't get that.
Yeah. Dapo?
I just want to emphasize the same thing. Money follows value. It doesn't follow color. It doesn't follow gender. It doesn't follow religion. It doesn't follow any of those things. It follows value. It goes where value goes. If you offer value to people, that's one big lesson I've learned in Canada. As you're right, a small percentage of people are racist and all that. People have asked me, are Canadians racist? No, but there are racists in Canada. That you can't help that. It's normal. Yeah. There are racists in my village as well. So money follows value. That's key. Then number two, if you understand that, again, it's a mindset. You don't go into business because you're looking for a pity party from somebody to come and patronize your business. If nobody's trying to patronize, you get help to increase the value that you're offering. A good example, is in October when we had Tribe Conference. We had Mayor Nenshi join us here. And one of the things he said is, we were talking about influencers, immigrants, and all those things. And one of the strong things that he said I took away from there is when he went into politics as a young man here in Calgary to become the mayor, he said, amazingly, unexpectedly, and surprisingly for him, the biggest backlash that he had came from people of his own color. He had more support from non-Blacks, non-people of color than people of color. So at the end of the day, he became mayor and he's been there again, and all that. So the point is just to illustrate what he's saying. Don't look for help from people that look like you. No, just offer value. I'm telling you, if you build it and it's valuable, they will come. Thank you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. But I also feel like if somebody is trying to break into a business and is a one person thing, as an entrepreneur just starting out, and I think that maybe that's where that could be their point of marketing. That I see a lot of that thing coming right now. So,
And it's okay to ask your friends and family for support. I'm just saying, let that not be your business plan.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
Let it not be your business plan. Yeah.
Yeah. I think on that note, we've almost come to the towards the end of our session. I think it's been a very good conversation. Do you have anything more to add? Your last thoughts, and we will continue to have these conversations and to build on it in months and years ahead. And I hope to build a bigger community. I hope we can be together and build this movement. So, Ehi, do you have anything more to add?
I think the only thing I would say is, evidently from everything that we've discussed in the last hour and a half, it's pretty obvious that, help does not start externally, it starts within. So I'm going to encourage everybody to have that conversation with themselves. What are some of the things that you can do personally for yourself? What are some of the conversations you can start to have with yourself, with your family, with your children, to position yourself, to position the Black community, or position yourself as a leader in the Black community in the world at large? And really take some of the things I'm taking away is, it's not enough to be successful. It's not enough to say, oh, I'm good, I have representation, or even if I don't have representation, I am great. What about your children? Do they feel the same way? Are you checking in on them? Do they know that they belong here? And it doesn't matter if you're watching this from outside Canada or outside America or wherever. The most important conversation to have starts with you. It's an inside job. Just really getting the Black community out there in the world is a responsibility on all of us. And we have a responsibility to be successful. For the people who have a hard time believing in themselves, we have a responsibility to be successful and tell our own stories.
Yes.
That's the boldness.
Yes. I think that's what we're doing here, and we will continue doing that. Dapo, last thoughts?
And last thoughts, it's this. At the end of the day, if it is to be, it is up to me. I think if we all have that attitude, then we can create the kind of desirable future that we want. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think this has been a very constructive, 1.5 hours well spent. I hope whoever listens to us, watches us, takes away some of the points we talked about, and continue on this conversation, build on, and not go beyond the rhetorics of Black Lives Matter and all that, and make a real change in our thought process, do our internal thinking, and change ourselves and change the world. Change our community, change our families, change the way we bring up a new generation. I hope we are able to do that. Thank you, Ehi, for your amazing thoughts and your energy, which is coming through in the screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dapo, for always being amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for driving this conversation. A lot of things wouldn't have been said if it wasn't for the great questions that you're asking. So thank you for moderating.
Thank you. I hope to continue this. I hope we don't just leave it up to next 2022 February. And I hope we do some form of talk and conversation going forward. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a good day. It's a sunny day here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know what to say about Calgary, but yeah.
It's bright and sunny here today, finally.
It's sunny here, and it's also cold. So
it is cold. It is cold. You just stay inside and watch the sun.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Stay in touch. Bye.